genre.
Hello, and welcome back to the Doctor's Companion Presents Doctor Who, The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Nick Jimenez.
I'm Scott Corelli.
And I'm Cassandra Fredrickson.
And today on the show, we will be discussing Genesis of the Daleks, the fourth Doctor's fourth story, and oh, what a story it is.
Hell yeah.
So this one, of course, like all Dalek stories, this early on in the show, written by Terry Nation. Although it should be noted, written by is in kind of in inverted commas or air quotes. Because while this was the original story, which was known as the Daleks' Genesis of Terror.
Sure.
That was written by Terry Nation, creator of the Daleks. But here's what's funny. So Barry Letts, who was the previous producer of the show, like with last season, he left last season. He was the one who commissioned this story, wanting a, sort of a Dalek origin story. And what he got was he was kind of like less than thrilled with, and he said, let's try this again, because what you wrote is a little too similar to the other stuff that you wrote for me, which was Planet of the Daleks, and I forget what the other one was.
Reunion of the Daleks.
Death to the Daleks. Yeah.
So
Planet of the Daleks and Death to the Daleks, and then he wrote this third one. It was a little too similar to those, and so Barry Letts was like, maybe try again. So Terry Nation came up with this idea of Davros being this sort of like human-ish Dalek kind of weird hybrid dude. And was like, yeah, we'll have him be the creator of the Daleks, and that's what we'll do. And so he kind of wrote this story, but by the time he finished this new draft, Barry Letts was no longer the producer of the show, and Philip Hinchcliffe was. Now, toward the end of last season, which would have been like around like the robot kind of era, like toward the end of the Pertwee era and into the robot stuff. So like sort of that like awkward transition of like, it's not John Pertwee anymore, but we haven't left unit yet. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, Robert Holmes had become script editor, and Robert Holmes notoriously hates the Daleks, and thinks they're boring and stupid, and didn't want to do this story. But Barry Letts was really excited about the prospect of doing a Dalek origin, so Robert Holmes just sort of rolled with it. However, Barry Letts left the show by the time Terry Nation finished his new draft, and Philip Hinchcliffe took over producing duties, and he, like Robert Holmes, hated the Daleks and thought they were stupid. And wanted to create new things and do new ideas. And so basically they were given this script by Terry Nation, and he was like, here you go, you're welcome. And they were like, great. And it was meant to be the second to last episode or second to last story of the season. But basically they read through it and just sort of looked at each other and were like, hey, let's maybe we rewrite this, huh? Let's just rewrite this and just Yeah. So they rewrote the whole story.
Is there any historical record of what this original Terry Nation draft included?
Not really. No. Just like some like basic stuff, but like this was, they were wanting to sort of lean into more of a horror show is what they were sort of changing the show into, Hinchcliffe and Holmes. And that definitely becomes apparent next season, the Gothic season.
So good.
Yeah. But here, I think they're still trying to find their footing and sort of evolve the show into what they wanted it to be. And this story, Genesis of the Daleks, I think is really sort of the proto example of what they were trying to do. Ark in Space is there as well, but this is the one that I think because it sort of has a Frankenstein quality to it, not to the level of Brain of Morbius maybe, but it's still kind of there. And them pulling sort of World War I stuff into it and all of that. So they redid the script and they shot it with director David Maloney. And David Maloney even changed things further. It was originally going to open with the Time Lords brought the Doctor into like a Garden of Eden kind of area and was explaining to him like why they wanted him to do this thing about the Daleks. And it was Maloney who actually changed it to Skaro, and opened with and changed it to open with the trench battle and all of that stuff. And Terry Nation, meanwhile, notoriously dislikes this story because very little of it has anything to do with him.
Good.
Yeah, and he's a lunatic. But I do love Terry Nation for as much of a lunatic as he is. This episode was also the first one to sort of begin the tirade against the show by Mary Whitehouse and the National Viewers and Listeners Association about the brutality. This was the episode in which she described as tea time brutality for tots. And Hinchcliffe basically defended the show by saying, like, look, yeah, it's violent, but your toddlers can't recreate any of the violence that we have in this. So, I mean, if you want to give them guns and torture devices, that's up to you guys, but that's not our responsibility. That's your responsibility as parents to stop your kids from having that stuff. Stop being stupid. But it was just the beginning of Mary Whitehouse and her hatred of Doctor Who, which would carry on for, I believe, a few decades after this. But this was the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about Genesis of the Daleks. I guess I think I want to start just, I don't know, like kind of generally about what our... I mean, I'm really curious about how Nick felt about this story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, first off, I wrote it down on my notes. In a show that, to speak kindly, sometimes takes its time in getting started, especially in this era of the show. 2 minutes and 56 seconds into the story, that Time Lord is like, "You're on Skaro. We need you to take out the Daleks before they're created." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I'm like, "Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad there wasn't 3 parts of like, oh, what's this?" And it's like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm about this. Let's get going. And besides that, I really enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed it not so much for its camp value, or which lovingly again is some of the enjoyment for most of the classic Who episodes. I just found myself like thinking about how much this episode has to say about like the responsibility of like armament in countries, and like what is the price of safety and protection? What is a good weapon? What is a functioning weapon? What is like that? And as goofy as the episode could be, I just really enjoyed how it was dedicating itself to asking these questions, and I like that it all takes place in a bunker. This episode, more than anything I've seen, really cemented what makes Davros such a brilliant villain. And there were some moments where he was genuinely like creepy and like monstrous, and using the Daleks as a weapon as opposed to like a gang of like evil Ninja Turtles that are always like trying to stop the Doctor. It was just like such a great. I thought the use of the Daleks in this story was very effective, and yeah. So I have a lot of super positive feelings about this story.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's very timely watching this again.
Yeah.
Which I wish it wasn't, but it is. So I don't know. Like
when was it not timely?
Yeah, that's true.
I think the thing that I really walked away from this, watching it this time, thinking was, I kind of wish this was the one and only time Davros was ever on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I don't think his appearances later on are ever at the level of what it is here. Like the sort of irony of creating a thing to be better than everyone, and then they turn on you because they're also better than you. Like that irony, I think, is really important, and I like where his story ends here. Like I really just wish he had never come back.
I'm a really big fan of what they did with him this past season.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, like I do think most of his appearances, certainly in New Who, tend to be kind of very rote.
I think my thing is like every time he's shown up since then, it's always like I'm the godfather of the Daleks. And like, oh yeah, no, we all look at him and he's the boss guy. And it just sort of like
negates.
I don't know. Yeah. It takes away some of the Daleks' power, I think. Whereas here, he's like, I'm the godfather of the Daleks, and the Daleks are like,
Daleks have no godfather.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I like that because it sort of sets up, the Daleks in like a really cool way. It ends his story in a really cool, ironic way. Like, it's just really good. And every time he comes back, there's some interesting stuff in there. Occasionally, like you said, like what they did with him and Capaldi last season. That was a really good story, but it still wasn't. I don't know. I just think like as a legacy for this character, I think it would be much more interesting if this was the only time we ever saw him.
I would have zero idea who he is.
Right. He would just be the villain of this particular story.
That's true.
Because I feel like too, going forward, they have to keep bending over backwards to like make sense out of why he's back again.
Just for the
but
and like
they
the best
do the same thing with the Master though. Like the Master's died like so many times.
I know, but that's the Master. He's like a magician. Like I don't like the Davros is like also a magic magician, cheater of death guy. You get one of those in a show.
Well, like you don't get the Master. The Master has such a great get out of jail free card because she is a Time Lord, and she's allotted the same BS that the Doctor is allotted whenever he gets out of his scrapes. Right. But in this episode, Davros is firmly, much like we talk about this in Back to the Future a minute a lot, but he's like a tool of time. He's a figure in the past that the Doctor has to outsmart in order to win the day. but he's still bound to the chains of time just as much as anyone else. But then, yeah, I kind of agree with Scott. Yeah, like, by bringing him back, any reason you bring Davros back, it's just for that twist at the end of the episode or the cold open where it's like, I'm back, Doctor, and it's always like, oh, Davros. But then you have to, do the
mental gymnastics,
back-breaking mental gymnastics of like why he's alive, why the Daleks like him again, why he's in charge of them, why he has control, and it's never worth that cheap reveal at the beginning or end of any future Davros story.
That's fair.
Yeah. All
right. You kind of can't do what, because the Master, they get to have fun with it. Where he's like, we both don't care why I did it because it's just it's Time Lord stuff,
right?
But like if they just decided to bring back the woman who was in charge of the Silence, from the time of the Doctor, and she's like, I'm here too. It's like, why?
Genesis of the Daleks, Part 1. Written by Terry Nation, directed by David Maloney, produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, script edited by Robert Holmes, air date 8th of March, 1975. The Doctor suddenly appears in the middle of a foggy battlefield on Skaro, somewhat disoriented, when another Time Lord suddenly appears. The Time Lord reveals that he intercepted the Doctor and his companions via transmat beam for an important mission involving the Daleks. The Time Lords want the Doctor to travel back in time to avert the Daleks' creation, make them less aggressive, or find some inherent weakness in their makeup. The Doctor agrees and is given a time ring that will return him to the TARDIS when his mission is complete. As the Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry explore the battlefield, the trio come across a trench filled with the dead bodies of fallen soldiers that have been propped up to appear more heavily guarded. Suddenly, gas shells drop as a squad of soldiers attack, dragging Harry and the Doctor into their bunker, leaving an unconscious Sarah behind among the dead. Inside the bunker, the Doctor and Harry meet General Raven, who explains they are the Khalids, who are fighting a war with the Thals for dominance of Skaro. Raven believes that the Doctor and Harry may be Mutos, the descendants of those mutated by chemical weapons in the first century of the war, and cast out into the wastelands to maintain Khaled racial purity. The Doctor tells Security Commander Niter that they are aliens, but Niter is skeptical, since the Khaled's greatest scientist, Davros, has said that there is no life on other planets. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane has regained consciousness and walks into the wastelands, where she stumbles across a crumbling structure and peeps through to see an old and crippled man, his lower body enclosed in what appears to be the bottom half of a Dalek. The man, referred to as Davros, flicks a switch on his chair and a Dalek is revealed. Davros commands the Dalek to exterminate, and the Dalek fires a deadly laser weapon, obliterating several man-shaped targets as Sarah Jane watches in horror.
So my first note for episode 1 is that Time Lords are dicks. I love when Time Lords just mess with the Doctor, especially in Classic Who, because like coming at Classic Who, like having watched New Who first, where he's like, I'm the last of the Time Lords and blah blah blah. So like I still consider it a novelty when the Time Lords interfere. But Gallifrey hasn't been destroyed yet.
You know what I like about this sort of opening plot line, almost 3 minutes in, like Nick time-stamped earlier, is that it's, this Time Lord's coming and he's like, hey, so the Daleks are really screwing up the universe and you need to go back to when they originated and you need to either stop them from happening or change history, change some sort of detail to make them like not so mean and aggressive. And the Doctor's like, all right, cool. And and I'm just like looking at this and I'm just thinking, they're called Time Lords. But they very rarely do anything. We very rarely see like what it is they do as Time Lords. And this is like one of the only times I think in the show's history where I can look at a Time Lord giving the Doctor a mission that is time related
Mm-hmm.
and is like literally lording over time.
What's the name of Rip's like group that he belongs to in like that first season of Legends of Tomorrow? Like the Time Cops? The Time Punchers?
No, it's literally like the Time Lords. Like it's literally it's like one word off of that.
Yeah. Those assholes were like all about hip hopping through time and like messing stuff up. Like they kind of earned their title, as problematic as that group was. But yeah, you're right. It would be like if we called Americans like horse lords. Because like 200 years ago we like really like leaned in on like using horses.
America's Rohan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like that this is sort of like a legitimate like Time Lord thing, Time Lord mission.
And like even and the Doctor is like, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, their thing is like they observe time, but they don't get involved, right? Because they're like hands off.
Yeah, but I mean that's what the Watchers are in the Marvel universe. Like that's not.
Yeah.
It's just so dramatically uninteresting as a concept, you know?
Well, I like that that's where the Doctor kind of starts, and then like
sure,
like his whole arc is like you need to get involved sometimes, but because he gets punished for being too involved at the end of his second regeneration,
right?
And the Time Lords are like, stop, but I don't know.
And I did like the conversation at the beginning where like the Time Lord tells the Doctor, look, we humor you with your like dumb little adventures, but we actually need you to come back and like do something for like the home country for a second. And the Doctor's like, fair enough.
Like imagine if I mean Gallifrey I guess is sort of back now, right?
Oh boy.
So like imagine if the Doctor is like on like one of his like regular missions or whatever, his regular stories, and then
I'm gonna kiss Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, whatever it is. And he goes through he goes through the motions and it's like a normal episode, but then in the end, when he thinks that he has like done the right thing or saved whatever, just a team of like Time Lord, like a military group or whatever, just like comes in their own TARDIS and like just like messes everything up and resets everything to be a certain way. And you just find out that there's like some new leader on Gallifrey who is just like, yeah, no, we're going to start just like turning the universe into like the way we want it to be.
Oh,
because we're Time Lords.
Yeah, they could come in like the agents for Monsters Inc. in like hazmat suits.
Right. Yeah. And just come in and mess everything up, and just like the Doctor having to deal with like, okay, now they're like really messing with stuff. Before they weren't messing with stuff enough. Now they're doing it a lot. I don't know. I just think that there's so many things that you could do with Time Lords and like with Gallifrey, and it always just seems to be kind of a setting, or just like a dude shaking his finger at the Doctor, and that's it. And this is one of the only instances where it's neither of those things. It's actually like more of like an active participant.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, Scott and I were just talking about how mind blowing that Citadel episode of Rick and Morty was, and it's kind of the same thing where the Time Lords really haven't had their Missy or their blink, like something that retcons the Time Lords and retroactively makes them as interesting as they are in concept on the show.
In New Who. In fact, the only thing that they did to retcon the Time Lords was just get rid of them entirely for 10 seasons or whatever.
Because like the one exception, and I don't know, because like Time Lords I think work better in theory. And then like the one exception in Classic Who to that is Deadly Assassin. because that one's actually interesting. But every time they set a story on Gallifrey, it sucks. Mm-hmm. And so I understand why they're just like, let's just get rid of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, it was a smart move, but now that they're back, it'd be cool if they did more stuff like this story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we've had like Lone Wolf Doctor for like a decade now. It would be cool to actually see the Doctor have to coexist inside or within the bureaucracy of Gallifrey.
Mm-hmm.
Or just something different, because he's been the last Time Lord for so long, and he hasn't been the last Time Lord for so long.
Yeah.
But the show is still asking us to emotionally accept him as the last one while still, like, being impressed by, like, it's back, though. But, like, why is he still whatever? Like, it doesn't feel emotionally different yet in the show, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. So I guess the other thing that I want to point out about, because there's a lot of like table setting in this first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so there are so many stories that are the Doctor and his companions show up in the middle of a civil war, and half of them go to one side. Like, the companion goes to one side, the Doctor ends up on the other side.
Someone gets knocked out and, like, rescued by the wrong side.
Right. And they're both, so we're seeing both sides of the Civil War, and they're, one is bad and one is kind of good, but then also does bad stuff sometimes. And usually the companion has to be like, oh, actually, that's bad. And they're like, oh, is it? And they're like, yeah, it's kind of bad. You don't want to be like the bad guys.
Down.
And they're like, okay. Yeah, right.
Sneeches with 1 star, Sneeches with 2 stars.
But what I like about this story is that there's actually 3 sides to the conflict, because there's the Thals, there's the Khaleds, and then there's the mutants.
Yeah.
And I like that there's 3 sides of this conflict, because I think it makes it a little more colorful and a little more interesting, and just, I don't know, not so like basic run of the mill Doctor Who as this could have been if it was just the Khaleds and the Thals.
Yeah. The last time we saw the Thals, they were like peace-loving, weird leather pants wearing like blonde people. So I like that.
Oh yeah,
we're getting ahead of ourselves, but like I like that they also do some really terrible things in this one, and there isn't like a right side to war.
Right, because it's been like, what, 100 years later? 200 years later?
Since when?
Since the Daleks.
Oh, the Daleks...
Or is this before? No, this is
before the Daleks, yeah. So, because the Daleks... That first Doctor story takes place after they, like, nuke the crap out of their planet. So...
Right.
Yeah. It's a post-Dalek world.
Yes.
So this is how many years prior to the Daleks? Is this like...
I think it's like thousands, because isn't there only like 3 Daleks left in the Citadel?
Oh man, crazy! All right, cool.
Yeah.
I just want like a montage of just how the Daleks like just corked that planet.
Yeah,
just slowly until there's only 3 left, and they're insane.
Right. I'd watch that Ken Burns documentary.
There's my favorite part of every Ken Burns documentary is like at the beginning when he's setting up the players, like a ranch hand from Kansas who would soon become the godfather of one of America's greatest industries, a school teacher with a simple dream of heading west who would change the course of a nation. Through like it would be great. It would like slow photo zoom in of like it'd be great if it was like 3 Daleks. 1 believed in an aqueduct system that would bring clean water to all of Skaro. Another would feel the full weight of Skaro's military. Like,
oh my gosh!
Like, black and white photos of like frontier Daleks.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
We moved west when Papa got the gout.
When Papa got the gown. Because they're talking about Davros.
Papa Davi.
There's some pretty dark stuff in this episode. Like
it's real. It goes full like Peter Morgan sometimes.
Well, like there's like dead people propped up in the trenches to look like the trenches are full of soldiers. Like that's messed up.
Like they're really. I think World War I, terrible war historically, but I think underused aesthetically in like film and television. And so I thought the way they leaned into like the like sci-fi chemical gas like no man's land stuff was like really interesting looking.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, we have who do we have? We got Harry and Sarah Jane,
of course,
as our companions, and they're fantastic in this.
Yeah, I love the Doctor asking for his team before getting the mission. It's such like a Fast and Furious move.
Yeah. I just love the Doctor noticing that Khaled is an anagram of Dalek.
Yes.
It's a very Marty move.
Uh-huh. Well, because what I like about it is like there's so many anagrams over the course of Doctor Who, but this is like one of the only ones where the Doctor's like, "Hey, that's an anagram."
Yeah. You think he would
like he didn't realize that Torchwood was an anagram of himself,
or Bad Wolf was an anagram for himself.
Right. So I don't know. I like that he realizes like Khaled barely even trying.
Those stupid robots.
Do you think that was like Robert Holmes like taking Terry Nation's script and being like, this is dumb. Let's hang a lantern on it.
Yeah, just kind of like
I'm sure. Yeah.
Khaled.
So is it General Raven? Is that the super Nazi looking guy with the glasses? Is that him, or is
that is Nider, my friend.
Nider.
He is
Security Commander Nider.
Yeah, in my notes I was like, this is the most Nazi looking dude I've ever seen.
Oh yeah. I through this whole thing I just kept waiting for his face to melt.
Not a great season for like security officers in charge of bases this go around.
It's true. That's correct. But
so Ravon thinks that they're like mutos. Is that what they called them? Mutos?
Yeah, he calls them mutos.
Muties.
Yeah, because they're
dirty
racist.
Muties.
I also like that the Doctor is like basically pointing out that like they're all like children.
Sure. Yeah.
And he takes them. I like how Ravon is so uppity about like what they're going to do to them and what his people are going to do to the planet and how they're going to get rid of all the Thals and be like the greatest race of people ever. And he's just like this kid, and then the Doctor is just like, oh, let me look at these plans, and he's like using like the little pointer, and then he just kind of like flicks the pointer at him, and then steals his gun and takes over the room.
Yeah, it's always so great. I mean, like I really do, especially like these days. I'm just so about like obnoxiously pacifistic anti-war Doctor. Just like, no, you idiots, that's not gonna work. Like it, because it's like he's so easily able to call out the cycle of violence that just no one is able to like see through. Yeah, it's what, in my opinion, it's what makes the Doctor such an original protagonist and such an endearing one.
Are we the only other thing that I wanted to kind of mention in this particular episode was like, okay, so Sarah Jane is left outside with all the dead bodies because they think that she's dead, and then she like tries to escape, and she ends up in these ruins, and we see Davros for the first time, are we, as an audience member at the time, meant to believe that he is one of the muties that everyone was talking about? Mutos.
I don't think so, because, like, the reveal is the Dalek, not Davros. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
well, that's what I mean. I'm not saying it's a reveal. I'm saying like we don't know who this guy is. We've never met him before. No one's really talked about him before. We're just seeing a guy who looks weird, and they were talking about mutos earlier.
Yeah,
and she just stumbled upon him in these ruins while like out in the world.
Sure, yeah, and if this is like, and if this is the first, if this is like the introduction to Davros, and he certainly doesn't look like a Dalek.
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
That's weird. I never would have thought about it that way.
Does his bottom little chair? Is it, because I know in New Who sometimes his like little like chair is the bottom of a Dalek.
Yeah.
But I can't really remember if that was the case in this episode. Like I can't get like a mental image of it in my head.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, it was just like the bottom of a Dalek.
It's the base of a Dalek, yeah.
God, I've always wanted to see that scene.
Oh, of him getting in that thing?
One of you give me your bottom.
Well, no, because I think he invents his little wheelchair first, and then uses that to invent the Daleks. Yeah.
Our bottoms are Papa Davy's bottom.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
I always have issues with the first Dalek story of a companion because it's always the same. It's always like a companion. The Doctor is like, "Oh my god, the Daleks, the most evil things on the planet," and then the companion is always just like, "Oh look, they're fat and stupid and they roll around. That's cute." And then they have to learn that they're actually like murder machines,
right?
It's like Kim Jong-un.
And so I always really like the stories where the companion comes into the situation already knowing what a Dalek is and was like, oh no,
not these guys again.
Yeah, I'm always way more interested in those stories because the other ones are always the same.
Oh my god. Okay, maybe I shouldn't even say this while we're recording, but imagine like if Bill, imagine if the first Dalek story for Bill was like she gets separated from the Doctor, she's wandering around, she finds like an old ruin, and it's a Dalek, but he's like has a dent in his helmet, and he's like completely docile.
I think that.
Hello, human.
I think they've done that story before.
There's no way. It's so
in Big Finish. I think Big Finish has kind of done a similar.
Yeah.
Thing.
Well, isn't that like Dalek? Like when Rose is like, "Oh, that's weird," and then she like touches it, and then it like freaks out.
Oh yeah, kind of. Yeah, I guess kind of.
Don't wake me up. But I love the idea of Bill and like a friendly like the sloth of Daleks like going on an adventure. It's like, oh, you're just so cuddly, and Bill just want to hug you. Like, thank you, Bill. And then like the Doctor's like, whoa.
Oh my god! Imagine if this last season of Doctor Who had ended with Bill as a Cyberman and
she just
Oswin
has like a Dalek friend.
Yeah, no, and Nardole gets turned into a Dalek, and it's just like,
oh my god,
Nardole the Dalek and Bill the Cyberman just like going on adventures together.
I still like genuinely regret that like Oswin as a Dalek never became a companion. I just think that would have been such a cool image of like the Doctor and a Dalek like rolling into like battle together.
Yeah.
Especially if like they made the Dalek, if they put like Clara's like cute little like doll dresses like over the shell of the Dalek body.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I did think the reveal of the Dalek at the end of this was like super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now we can begin. It was. That was fun.
Genesis of the Daleks, Part 2. Written by Terry Nation, directed by David Maloney, produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, script edited by Robert Holmes. Air date 15th of March, 1975. Once Davros leaves the scene, Sarah is taken prisoner by a pair of mutos that had been following her. One of them notes that muto law demands that they kill Sarah for being a norm, but the other, named Severin, tries to stop him. Their fight is interrupted by a squad of Thal soldiers who take Severin and Sarah to the Thal Dome as slave laborers. In the Khaled base, the Doctor's time ring is confiscated as he and Harry are taken to senior researcher Ronson for questioning. After examining the results of a scan, Ronson is startled to discover that the Doctor and Harry are indeed aliens. Before he can question them further, Davros arrives to present the new Mark III travel machine, but the Doctor recognizes the machine as a Dalek. The Dalek detects the Doctor and Harry's alien physiology and attempts to exterminate them, but Ronson switches the Dalek off before it can fire because he believes that the prisoners might hold valuable information. Davros agrees to give Ronson until dawn to finish questioning Harry and the Doctor, at which time they will be executed. Davros announces that the Mark III travel machine will now be known as a Dalek, and Ronson asks how the Doctor knew about this in advance. The Doctor reveals that he is a time traveler who has dealt with the Daleks before. Ronson tells the Doctor that the scientific elite discovered that the Khaled race is mutating. Davros believes that this mutation cannot be reversed and began experiments to determine the Khaled's final mutated form, and the Daleks are the result of those experiments. Ronson does not approve of Davros' methods and will help the Doctor and Harry escape if they inform the government. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane discovers that the Thals have built a rocket that they hope will bring victory against the Khaleds. Sarah proposes to the other slaves that they try to escape through the dome's exit at the top of the rocket, but as they all start to climb, the Thal troops begin to fire up at them, and Sarah Jane loses her grip and falls.
I love that they call the normal norms.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
What's up, Norm?
You know what? I have issues with that.
Please go on. Yeah,
I have.
It's problematic for sure.
Oh no, it is. I have issues with it because, like, why would they use the phrase "normal"?
Yeah,
for the people who are keeping them down
are not them.
Yeah,
mutant and proud, Scott.
Yeah, but. That seems, I understand that's like the perspective of like what they were writing.
Right.
Sure, but sociologically it makes no sense.
No, yeah. None whatsoever.
There's no record of like the Aztecs being like, and then the normal people came from across the ocean.
Right.
Right. Well, and then they're just like, yo, we have to, death to all normies. And he's like, why do we have to kill everything that's beautiful?
We are ugly, but we are alive.
And he's like, I'll kill you. And really, they're not even that, like, mutated. They're just, like, balding.
I know. One's got, like, a weird club arm. Like,
no, it's, oh, God, what movie was that? Where they, like, revealed Skaro, like, a character, like, took off his mask and reveal. Oh, I think it was Gerard Butler, Phantom of the Opera, right? Where he like barely had anything wrong with him.
Yep.
Like, look upon this.
It's like a 3rd-degree sunburn.
Yeah. Or like Zuko in the Last Airbender movie.
I'm dishonored.
Yeah, but the mutos are on a mission to just destroy beauty,
which they refer to as beauty.
Yeah, the beauty.
Everything about this is that like psychologically, it just bothers me. It drives me up a wall.
Sure, like it's super effective in like a pulp sci-fi way, but yeah, like as the backdrop of a civilization, it's like super wonky.
Right.
Yeah. It's so weird. But then we meet my favorite character of this episode, this story, which is Ronson, the guy from the scientific division who is like everything he thinks he knows to be true is questioned and changed over the course of like the 3 episodes that he's in. And it all starts with him just being like, the the only way, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were from another place. And the doctor's like, why wouldn't you know? But why would you know better than that? And he's like, well, because everyone knows that Skaro is the only planet with intelligent life and like the surrounding 8 galaxies. And he's like, there's more than 8 galaxies.
Oh, that was such a pimp line. Baker has some genuinely really clever retorts in this one, but that was the first one because he's just so like, you're aware there are more than 7 galaxies, and like the look on Ronson's face, like because it is such like an obvious, but it is such like a smart ass kid in the principal's office kind of situation, which is kind of who the Doctor is really at the end of it.
Especially Tom Baker. This early Tom Baker stuff is like that.
Yeah, just like popping jelly bellies in his mouth with his feet up on the desk.
Yeah, I just like how he was also testing the Nazi dude, the Khaled guy, about
Snyder.
Like, he wanted tea or coffee.
Oh, right, yeah.
And like he does this stuff, and when you're watching it, like you could really just take it as like, oh, he's so quirky. But like he's really just testing people.
Yeah.
He's like, like I'm gonna ask for tea and coffee. And his reaction to me asking for tea or coffee is going to tell me everything I need to know about this guy.
I love that the guy is just like, what? Like the most exaggerated whatever.
Jim.
Right?
But if he asked the same question to Ronson, I feel like Ronson would be like, yeah, I could probably whip something up. Because he's not what he's basically seeing is like at a base level, what kind of person are you?
Yeah. He's like a kid with a new babysitter. Like, what can I get away with? Will you tell me if I'm not allowed to like watch this on TV?
Yeah. Yeah. He's trying to find people who can help him through this situation. Like, are you somebody worth talking to, or should I just find someone else? And with that first guy, he's like, okay, this is pointless. I'll wait. And then he finds the guy that he can sort of reason with in Ronson over time. He has to keep proving that the universe is larger than Ronson believes. But once he does that, Ronson is sort of like, all right, I should be listening to this guy. I really like the scientists who think that they're the smartest people in existence, and then they meet the Doctor and they're just like, whatever, I'm not smart, you're not smarter than me, and then the Doctor proves that he is,
right?
And then they're like, oh well, all right then, if you're smarter than me, then by all means, it's
how you wish. I mean, it's sort of how you wish all scientists or all people would be. That they'd be like, oh, it's not a blow to my ego that you're smarter than me or that you're teaching me stuff. I should just be absorbent and learn from you and not try and silence you.
I love that. And then my favorite part of this episode, I think, is the Dalek showcase. Davros's Dalek showcase.
Yeah, y'all ready for this?
It's like it's like one of those like Apple presentations.
Oh my god!
Yeah, there's like Tim Cook comes.
It's like Tony Stark Expo.
Right.
Oh yeah. But instead of like a bunch of like girls dancing in like little mini Iron Man outfits, it's just a bunch of like Daleks like in a row,
like spinning.
Kind of
yeah. Turn to the left. Turn to the right.
Right. Spin.
And then they get their gun installed, which is literally just a plug.
It's so cute.
I love.
Get a little
it's
upgrade.
like a little USB.
Yeah.
Upgrade.
Our new model.
God, they're even more pathetic without that little gun thing.
I know.
Like, what were they before that? What could they do? They just like push you.
So good.
They like plunger you.
Get
to
over
death.
there. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like how cats are like nature's perfect killing machines.
Yeah, but they're like 8 pounds.
But they're like 8 pounds, and like we declaw them, and
don't declaw your cats, people.
and they just
PSA.
like, yeah, and then they just like, I'm a perfect killing machine, but I can't do anything because I don't have my laser gun.
That's so sad.
Yeah. No, just like I just keep imagining a Dalek like bumping into someone repeatedly, like a cat.
Yeah, you know what would be amazing is if like you wait for the Dalek to be like asleep and you replace their laser gun with like another kind of gun that like turns everything into like puppies and flowers and stuff. Yeah. And they're just like trying to like they're trying to kill things, but they're just making things more beautiful, and they're like, no. Yeah. They're just so frustrated.
Or like one of those glitter cannons.
Yeah.
The doctor will surrender. Glitter. Damn.
All you've done has made me more fabulous.
No, we're creating beauty.
Oh my gosh.
Fabulous.
My favorite part of the episode is when Sarah is trying to climb to like the top of the rocket that she has seen, and then there's two, so like the people that are climbing with her are getting shot, right? The slaves. There are 2 scream sound effects, and they get used multiple times for people that we see are different people.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, you hear like the same guy die like 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like the BBC's Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, but that's where part 2 ends, is you think Sarah's gonna she starts to fall. You get a great freeze frame of her like falling.
Oh, it's so dumb.
Yeah.
I hate the cliffhanger.
Yeah. The cliffhangers in this story are the weakest part of it, I think.
Yeah.
When they edited it to get like I'm not a big fan of the feature length edits that they do of Classic Who stories.
Oh, really?
But I think this is one of the only exceptions. Yeah, because I like the cliffhangers usually. Like, that's what Doctor Who is. Like, Classic Who is serials and cliffhangers, and you know, that it's part of the charm. But in this particular story, I think it does improve it by taking the cliffhangers out and making it just like one long feature length story. Because the cliffhangers aren't great in this one, I don't think.
There are in my notes I wrote down a lot of shots that I thought were genuinely like evocative and beautiful. And it got to the point where I was like, who directed this? And I looked him up, and it was just like the same guy who directed War Games and Towns of Wing Chiang. I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. But one of the ones I wrote down in this one is that shot where the Doctor and Harry are first peering through the little hole at like the Dalek mutants, and it's just green, and then you see their eyes. That's such a good shot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great shot, and I love that bit, because it's literally like, I mean, the professor guy, what's his name, Ronson. Ronson is literally just like, yeah, no, I mean, Davros is crazy, and he comes full around to the Doctor's way of things like 15 minutes later after finding out that the Doctor's an alien. And he's like, yeah, no, I mean, Davros is crazy. I mean, there's stuff going down that he doesn't want anyone to know about. Like, we're all mutating into like these other beings, and the Doctor's just like, how bad could it be? And he just like flips on a light, and he's like looking there. And he looks, and then he comes back, and he's just like, you guys have some troubles.
Nope.
Like, that is not good. I love that. I thought that was really, but this is really well directed. You're right. The use of shadow, especially, like these sets aren't overlit. There's sort of, it reminds me of like what the Sixth Doctor era was trying to do and failing.
Right, like gritty and grimdark and whatever.
Yeah, but this is doing it, but like doing it well, I think.
Yeah. And like we were talking a little bit earlier about like the gothic horror that they were working towards, and I think that shot in particular is very indicative of that. Like you don't see the monster until like the end of episode 5.
Yeah.
So it like
something like that.
Good stuff.
It is. It's dark in a way that is not grim dark.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It reaches that level of like darkness and maturity, but in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
Genesis of the Daleks, Part 3. Written by Terry Nation, directed by David Maloney, produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, script edited by Robert Holmes. Air date 22nd of March, 1975. Sarah Jane lands on a platform and Severin helps her back up. They make it to the nose cone of the rocket but are caught before they can reach the dome's exit. Meanwhile, after Ronson helps them escape the bunker, Harry and the Doctor arrive at the Khaled base, where the Doctor briefs the Khaled counselors on Davros's experiments and future events involving the Daleks. The counselors decide that an independent inquiry will look into Davros's experiments, and if the Doctor's allegations are true, the project will be shut down. But spies inform Davros of this meeting, and as the counselors arrive to announce the inquiry, Davros pretends to take the news well, but orders the creation of 20 new Daleks. Meanwhile, Raven tells Harry and the Doctor that Khaled agents have reported that a girl led an attempted breakout in the Thal Dome. Believing she must be Sarah Jane, the Doctor and Harry ask Raven to show them how to get to the Thal Dome. While making their way through the corridors, they manage to spy on a meeting between Davros and Thal leadership in which Davros claims to only be interested in peace. He gives them a chemical formula that will weaken the Khaled Dome enough for their rocket to work in hopes of ending the war, even if it means the destruction of the Khaled race. Harry and the Doctor enter the rocket silo in the Thal Dome, where they find Sarah and free the slaves. Harry, Sarah, and Severin leave for the Khaled Dome to warn them about the Thal's planned attack and Davros's treachery. Meanwhile, the Doctor attempts to sabotage the rocket, but is stopped when a guard in the silo activates an electric grid, shocking the Doctor into unconsciousness.
Poor Sarah Jane. Like,
Yeah.
she falls.
This is not a fun adventure for her altogether.
No.
She like falls and then someone catches her and then they like get caught by the falls and then like that one guy like dangles her over the edge. I'm like, oh my god, just leave her alone.
I know.
I love.
She's so good in this story, though.
Yes. I love her outfit. Like I know it's the same outfit from the past like 3 stories, but I love her her sweater. And I really like Davros's like weird garden of monstrosities just living in the sewer.
Yeah. I love Davros being like faux compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really creepy and manipulative.
Yeah, it's very slimy.
Yeah, he's really got like a Jafar thing going on in this story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or like an Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Senator Palpatine, really.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, I like that a lot. This third one, I don't think there's a lot of fat on this story, but I do think the third episode in particular, like there's stuff in it that needs to happen, but like it does feel a little thin, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot. Like I didn't have a lot of notes for
like,
the third one.
I don't know. Like Harry gets eaten by the clam a little too long, which is hilarious.
Oh, the clam!
But, like...
The clam was great.
What does he say? Why am I always the one being snacked on?
Yeah, no,
he's
like why is it always me that puts a foot in it? Which I wrote down because the Doctor literally stepped on a landmine 2 episodes ago, and not Harry. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I forgot. They were like, we're in a minefield.
Yeah.
There was so much in episode 1, it was hard to like talk about all of it.
Yeah.
Episode 1 was like just loaded with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he does get he steps on in the cave clam.
I am so sad. I would love to see a scene where a Dalek accidentally like rolls across that thing. No, no, no! It just like gets eaten by this giant like Audrey 2 clam.
Love it. Is this the episode where the doctor starts like telling everyone about like the Daleks and how they're evil and terrible, and everyone's like, what? Yeah,
Guns can't be
think
bad.
so.
I think this is the one. It's also like Harry and the Doctor. I mean, the whole thrust of this episode is like Harry and the Doctor being like, we should go save Sarah Jane, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird when it's just the two of us.
Yeah, and so they go to try and save Sarah Jane, and they like break into that silo. And the Doctor is like, I'm gonna, you know what? While we're here, I mean, I might as well just like sabotage this rocket.
I'm gonna sabotage this rocket while I'm here. I'm gonna sabotage this rocket real quick.
Did you guys? It's like a really minute thing, but I thought it was really funny. When they're in the Thal headquarters, there's this random extra with like the most 70s mustache and eyeglass combination I've ever seen in my life, and he just like walks by the camera, and
I didn't
so
think
good.
I saw him.
Oh, it's like peak
Sounds
70s.
amazing, oh man. Yeah, I was thinking about how peak 70s. I 75, man. There was a lot going on here, fashion wise.
Yes.
And
Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, well, I love Sarah Jane's fashion, I guess.
Oh
but,
man, I want to cosplay her so bad.
Well, there's
she's
something
awesome.
There's something very timeless about like the Sarah Jane costume in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like-
In
like-
most of her costumes, actually.
With
Yeah,
like
like, you
the
could get most of
raincoat
Sarah
and
Jane's-
the sweater and the little galoshes. I love
Yeah,
it so
like,
much.
Sarah Jane could shop at Anthropology and get away with it now.
Mhm. Harry is very
Yes.
70s. In a way that I'm not into. Everything is like kind of too big for him. Everything he's wearing. Like when he was like walking around like with all of his layers, it was just like, oh man, like what are you trying to outlayer the Doctor? Like chill out, dude. So many layers.
I could see being friends with the Doctor would make you like, well, am I not doing enough like with my wardrobe? Like
That's true. That's very true.
do I need a thing?
So this one, so the Doctor, he tries to sabotage the rocket, and that's somebody turns on the electric fence, Jurassic Park style,
Yeah.
and he gets electrocuted.
The other thing I really liked about this episode, there's that moment where the Doctor like breaks into the Thal headquarters, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, can you help me? I'm a spy." And then like he overtakes
That was
guy.
great. Yeah.
And that's like quintessential Tom Baker, because he does it with like a grin on his face, and it's, I don't know. I love his quippy like one-liners.
Early Tom Baker, I was just in awe of watching this, and I'm like watching this, and I'm just enjoying every second of it, and then just dreading the fact that like, you know, a couple years from now, we're going to be beyond this era, and we're going to have like 4 more years of just bad story after bad story to go through.
Well, he like becomes an asshole, and then he's just tired in that last season. So like, I think the least tolerable Tom Baker seasons are like his 4th and 5th one, but we get Romana, so that's fine.
That's true.
She makes it tolerable.
She puts him in his place, which is good. But man, this is just not quite peak Tom Baker, but it's up there. Peak Tom Baker's next season, but it's some good stuff here for sure. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for this week's Doctor's Companion. We'll be back next week to talk about parts 4 through 6 of Genesis of the Daleks. In the meantime, where can people find us if they want to, Cass?
You can find us all on duelinggenre.com and our various projects that we've got going on, along with a plethora of other stuff that we're hosting on the site, and it's really cool. Yeah. And
if you haven't yet, you should definitely go check out our listener group on Facebook. So go look for that. The link should be in the show notes. So go check that out. And if you want to, help us do more with this show, you can go check out our Patreon page, duelinggenre.com/support, and help us do more with this show, and do that Doctor Who and the Daleks thing that we want to do. Yeah, so go check that out, duelinggenre.com/support, and we will be back next week with Genesis of the Daleks parts 4 through 6.